Pull assembly up to the body control section. We will now pull through each channel, CHA CCD wire assembly, 4 coil pipes, the air, water, and biopsy channel. First we will start with our CHA CCD wire assembly. Pull this through carefully into body section. When pulling through the new refurbished ISA assembly at the factory, it is usually orientated the orientation of up, which will go on top of the body control section, so the angulation will be correct and the image of the CCD will not be upside down. You will match the marking from the factory or marking that you previously had on the ISA assembly to the top of the body control section, so the up, down, left, right cables are correct and the image is right side up. Again, pulling up CHA CCD wiring harness, pull all the way through endoscope. And feed wire through body section. Once you have pulled it through, coil it up and keep it to one side. Next step is to feed through light guide bundle, illumination bundle, through endoscope, being extremely careful. You can use tweezers to guide light guide bundle through body section. When pulling through light guide bundle, be extremely careful not to kink, bend, push, or put any force on gray illumination bundle, otherwise it will damage the light guide bundle. Pull light guide bundle through all the way, coil up, and keep to one side. Carefully turn over the instrument and pull through all 4 coil pipes, angulation wires. You need to reattach these into the angulation wire control block assembly. These coil pipes and angulation wires are color-coded from the factory. Color codes are as follows. The red marking on the coil pipe is for your up angulation. The black color coding is for your down angulation. Green is your left angulation cable, and silver or no color is your right. Be sure when pulling these through and reattaching that you have put the proper color codes for each angulation wire. Again, red is up, black is down, green is left, and silver or no color is right. We can test this before final assembly to be sure that the angulation wires are properly installed. Reattach cables to each up, down, left, right ferrules, and tightening ferrule down approximately 2 to 3 millimeters from the control stopper. We will test for plain angulation again with final assembly. Pull through your biopsy channel up to meet forcep port. As long as we have the body control section up, and up will be where the air, water, and suction valves are located, is the top of the scope. The insertion tube is oriented up. We can now screw in all our 6 Phillips screws. Please note, if your CHA CCD wiring assembly was attached to a static ground block, it will be required to wrap in white Teflon tape. Carefully cut or unsolder each CCD wire from static control block and wrap in the white Teflon tape previous to pulling through body control section. Always be sure when wrapping CHA wires with white Teflon tape that you are statically grounded as not to damage the CHA CCD chip. Again, as long as ISA insertion tube is properly oriented, replace all Phillips screws. And insertion tube body control section. Slide back on your ferrules onto the biopsy channel. Stopper ferrule will go on first. Then your copper ferrule will slide up and over silver ferrule. This will screw on to your forcep port housing. You can use your tweezers or a small drill bit to tighten biopsy channel up onto forcep port assembly. Be sure when turning this that the biopsy channel does not turn with ferrule, because it will twist inside insertion tube. You can make a small mark with a black felt tip magic marker. That way you can tell while you're turning the ferrules with a drill bit that it is not twisting inside the insertion tube. Tighten this ferrule all the way up. Clockwise. It may be necessary to hold forcep port assembly while finally tightening your ferrule up onto forcep port. Be extremely careful not to kink or cut into any of the channels or illumination bundle. Reattach air and water channels using the same principle, not to let channel twist while tightening each ferrule. If you find the channel is twisting, you can use a small piece of cut emery cloth to put underneath and hold channel while turning ferrule. This will restrict the channel from twisting inside body insertion tube. Do the same for your clear channel, which will be at the top. Pushing ferrule down and tightening ferrule. Onto top air water assembly. Again, be sure that channel does not twist. Tighten with a small drill bit and hold small needle nose pliers to tighten completely. Pull through body control section, remainder of CHA CCD wire harness. Pull all the way through and coil up to one side. Pull remainder of illumination light bundle through body section, being extremely careful not to kink or bend or crush light guide itself. Use a pair of tweezers if necessary, and only grip on the metal shaft and not the illumination bundle itself. Pull light guide bundle through entirely. Be sure not to cross or kink light bundle with other channels. Coil up and lay to the side. Once both light guide, illumination bundle, and CHA CCD wiring has been pulled through the body control section, we will now feed our light guide illumination bundle cable through the umbilical or light guide tube. Using the plastic tubing we have previously pulled light guide tube through, proper size tubing will fit the light guide probe end into tube snugly, so we will be able to pull illumination bundle through our light guide tube umbilical section. Orientate the scope so it is lying flat along your bench in the body control section, straight to our light guide umbilical cord tube. At the other end of instrument, pull our plastic tubing to feed our light guide illumination bundle through umbilical section. Pull the light guide all the way through until we have no more slack left in body section. Pull light guide through almost all the way, leave some slack and the body section. At the other end of the scope where the light guide should have came through, this will be the tube that attaches on to our light guide probe assembly. We have now pulled the light guide through and have enough slack here and in the body to allow the light guide to pass through and reach probe end. Grabbing your video connector, pass a small piece of PVC tubing down through connector, through umbilical cord, so it reaches body control section. We will use this tubing to pull through our CHA CCD wiring harness. Once you're able to pass the tubing through the umbilical light guide portion of the scope, we can now slide in our CHA CCD wiring harness. This will allow us to pull through the wire through the entire umbilical control section and out back to the connector. If need be, use a piece of small Scotch tape and tape tightly from tubing to our white tape around CCD wiring harness so it will not pull through and fall off. Once the CCD CHA wiring harness is secure to our plastic tubing, we can push and pull through the entire umbilical cord section. As we did with the illumination light guide bundle. Pull from the end of the scope and push at the same time. Pull your CHA CCD wire all the way through and leaving a little slack inside the body. Once the illumination bundle and CCD wire harness has been passed through, leaving a small amount of slack inside the body, locate your countersunk stainless steel screws. You'll need to orientate the light guide umbilical section to the scope by usually a factory marking or mark that you had previously had. Line up the umbilical control section back to the mark. Using your Phillips screwdriver, replace each countersunk stainless steel screw. Once Phillips screws have been tightened, we will now need to pass through our final channel, and that will be our suction channel. You can use a part number SP ST 3.7 suction channel to pass through umbilical section. Pass the suction tubing through the umbilical section, passing through the etched portion of the channel first. This portion will allow our glue to adhere properly to this Teflon tubing. Pass the tube through the umbilical section, which our connector for air, water, suction, and light guide is attached. Carefully and slowly push it through the entire length of the umbilical section, being careful not to catch our light guide bundle. Do not force it in any fashion, otherwise it could cause severe damage to our illumination bundle. Be sure the umbilical control section is laid out flat The suction tubing, while passing through our Y section of the umbilical cord, may get hung up at this point. You can gently tap the umbilical on a desktop. This may allow for the channel to pass through properly without any force. Once the suction channel has been passed through the entire umbilical cord, it will be necessary to be sure that the suction channel is at the lowest part underneath the air, water, and light guide bundles. Using a pair of pliers, pull out the suction channel, and using a piece of emery cloth, grab your suction channel and take a pair of tweezers and gently pry the tweezers in the opening of the suction channel. This will be able to let us slide the suction channel up onto our suction pipe. Do not force the tweezers in too far, because that will make too large of a gap to be able to fit over our pipe. We will now need to mix some epoxy to be able to glue our suction channel onto the suction channel port. You could use either a 5-minute Class 6 epoxy or a standard 2-part epoxy. Part number is SPBRE or SPBRE5. Mix your epoxy previous to gluing. If using the 5-minute, you will need to perform suction channel placement quickly. If using standard bending rubber epoxy, you'll need to leave it at least sitting for approximately 1 hour till it gets tacky, otherwise it will run down inside the body of the endoscope. Apply a small amount of epoxy onto the pipe of the suction cylinder, which was previously cleaned when we removed the old suction channel and the coil pipe surrounding it. Go all the way around the pipe. Using a piece of emery cloth wrapped around the suction channel, you'll need to pull it down, being extremely careful as not to crush our light guides or any of the channels. We'll need to push down and maneuver our suction channel on to the suction channel port of our suction cylinder with either emery cloth, or you can use a pair of dull needle nose pliers to pull up and over the port. Be careful not to kink this suction channel, because that will not allow the forceps cleaning brush to pass through and will restrict suction during procedure. Again, being extremely careful not to crush any of the other tubings and light bundles or CCD CHA wiring assembly. If you do kink this tubing, use your pliers and remove kink from the channel. It is very difficult to get in here and will take a little practice to get this tube up on to the port. If you're using a 5-minute epoxy, of course it will need to be done very quickly, but be very careful. It is advisable possible to use standard bending rubber epoxy, letting it get tacky first for an hour and then letting it dry. Once tube is over a port, use remaining glue and cover top of suction channel so that we are sure we have an airtight seal and the suction channel will not pull off. Once glue is dried on the suction channel port to the suction cylinder, we can carefully swing over our retaining bracket. Be careful not to pinch our light guides or CCD wire harness or air water channels. Slide over, retrieving flathead stainless steel screw and tightening down bar. Also take your pair of tweezers and tighten screw and locking shaft. We will now work on connector end. We will pass through the remainder of our illumination light guide bundle through the connector till it meets the end of the light guide probe. In order to do this, we must carefully pass down the light guide probe, being sure that the tip of the probe is clean and free from any debris. You could use some tissue and alcohol to clean off the probe tip if necessary. Any debris on this probe will cause light to not pass through correctly the light guide illumination bundle. Pass the light guide down through connector and observing opening to light guide probe. Pass through until light guide enters opening and slides down shaft to the light guide probe end. This may take a little doing and the use of gravity to allow it to slide down and into probe shaft. You'll be able to see the end of the probe, the light guide, resting up against window glass. Find your set screw on the light guide probe and using a small number 1 screwdriver, tighten down your set screw. This holds the light guide in place. Do not over tighten, just finger tighten. Otherwise you can cause damage to light guide probe. Using some black RTV, fill the hole as to cover the top of the set screw. Be sure to fill hole completely. This will allow for watertight seal. Wipe off any excess. Allow this to dry. We will now attach our suction channel to our suction channel port. Retrieve your suction channel clamp and slide it down over tubing. Using a very sharp pair of diagonal cutters. Cut the SS suction tubing. You will make a cut which is approximately parallel to your suction port. Be careful not to cut too short or too long. This will not allow the connector to fit back on the umbilical cord properly. So again, approximate cutting to meet the suction port. Use a pair of tweezers and round suction tube. Using Pliobond, which can be bought in any hardware store. Apply Pliobond around the suction port entirely around the port as to glue on our suction channel. Use a toothpick if necessary to apply Pliobond around port. Use your piece of emery cloth to grab a hold of suction channel. Slide suction channel up and over suction port, pushing down and allowing suction channel to push completely over suction port. Be careful not to kink or touch any other tubing or your light guide bundles. Pull out your emery cloth. Retrieve the suction tubing clamp, which was previously slid down suction tubing. Using your Phillips screwdriver, tighten your clamp. It may be necessary to hold clamp nut in order to tighten properly. Again, be sure not to cut into your illumination bundles or your other air water channels. Be sure clamp is up and over the port as to make a complete seal and keep the channel on tightly onto suction port. Once the suction channel is on properly with our clamp tightened down, we can now pull up the body covers to reinstall the light guide probe. The light guide probe, in reference to our video connector, will be up, whereas the top of the probe will be in the up position in reference to our video connector. Also, previously, if you made any reference marks on the instrument, you can match those up. Retrieve all your stainless steel flathead screws. Once holes are aligned, using Phillips, we can apply all 7 screws. Once all 7 screws are tight, pull up your cone and screw clockwise onto light guide connector assembly. We will now work on the video connector, and we will re-solder our CCD-CHA wiring harness to the Series 200 setup board. Before we proceed to work on the video connector and the setup board, you must be sure that you are statically grounded with an approved static wristband. First step is to put our CHA wiring through the EMI ferrule, looping it inside the ferrule twice. Then pulling our freeze frame button wires also through. Taking your EMI shield plate, clip in the EMI ferrule into respective hole on the plate. Retrieve out of your static sensitive bag your Series 200 setup PCB. We will now unwrap the CHA wires from the white Teflon tape, as we did previously before wrapping them up to pass through the endoscope. Unwrap the white Teflon tape carefully as not to break or damage any of the small coax wires. Once the white Teflon tape is removed, find the black grounding shield wire off CHA CCD wiring, and using a good pair of wire strippers, strip down the black wire. We'll need to solder it onto this EMI shield post. Using a good quality grounded soldering station, solder on the black wire to this shield post. Strip down the yellow and black freeze frame button wires. We'll now solder this onto the Series 200 setup board. First, attach black freeze frame wire to setup board. Then attach yellow freeze frame button wire to its respective contact on Series 200 setup board. You'll now need to resolder each and every color-coded CCD wire to Series 200 setup board. Due to the very small size of each wire and its color code, you will need to refer to the wiring diagram provided with this videotape. Be sure when soldering the wires that the ground shield is soldered to each point respective to the lead wire. The wire must go completely through the solder joint to the other side of the PCB board, otherwise no video will come through CCD. Be sure you are statically grounded when soldering each and one of these wires. Double check each wire after you have soldered them all on to make sure that they respond to each color on this wiring diagram. After you have wired endoscope, plug into EPX 200 and test for video. If you still do not have proper video, you will need to cut each wire again and resolder each shield and lead into each respective point on PCB and retest in processor until you get video image. Once you are certain that you have wired up the CCD wires correctly by color code, in order to test CHA assembly to make sure you have an image, you must reseal case, place PC board back in bottom case bracket, carefully cover over Series 200 PC board, close down cover, making sure that you do not crimp any wires internally and externally. Once the case is closed and is not crimping or kinking any wires, retrieve 4 stainless flathead screws to close case. This case must be on in order to get a picture because it completes a ground circuit. Carefully slide wires and EMI ferrule into Series 200 connector. Up will be the silver label, and the up on connector will be the widest part towards the top, and the smallest part of connector at the bottom. Do not force this in if need be. Maneuver the wires until you're able to push in to Series 200 connector. Once the PC board is slid into connector without kinking wires, retrieve your 2 long stainless steel Phillips screws, tighten Series 200 connector. Now you can safely test CHA assembly in the EPX 200 processor. If you do not still have an image, you will need to remove it, resolder wires, and test again in processor. Once you have gotten a good image on your EPX 200 processor, we will now need to reseal the entire scope and test for leaks. First, pull up side body cover If you have a small paintbrush, some white lithium grease, clean around the O-ring to make a proper seal. Making sure that all the wires, light guides, and channels are all fit inside body section. You can pull up body cover, side cover. Carefully latch top tongue to meet underneath lip. And push down to seal O-ring. Retrieve your long slot screw and with larger flathead screwdriver tighten screw to body. Using tweezers and alcohol, slide up side body cone and turn clockwise. Retrieve the Fuji CE label. This cosmetic label will be placed over slotted screw inside cover with Pliobond adhesive. Put a small amount on top of screw head and reattach CE plate. Let this dry before submersing endoscope. Next step is to make sure that all light guides and channels and wires are all in place. Turn over instrument. Previously, we attached the up, down, and left, right cables in the proper order. Again, red was up, black was down, green was left, and silver is right. We can test this by turning the knobs and checking the angulation at the distal end, making sure that it is truly up, down, and left and right. Also, we need to check for a play. We can adjust play at this time by loosening or tightening these ferrules onto these control blocks. Counterclockwise to tighten, clockwise to loosen. Check all four: up, down, left, right. Retrieve your angulation control plate and carefully slide it in, over, and down onto body section. Retrieve 4 stainless steel screws and clip. And tighten down. If previously the angulation was off, you can adjust the angulation by turning the 4 cams internally in the angulation control section. You need a flathead screwdriver and turn clockwise or counterclockwise to adjust for the proper angulation of the Fujinon scope. With the angulation cover in place, we can now pull up our body covers. Be sure again we're not kinking any wires or light guide tubes. Be sure the O-ring is clean. Slide up your first hand body cover. Slide up locking ring. Tighten down locking ring with either your C ring puller or your Fujinon custom jig tool. Be sure this is hand tight. Do not apply too much force or you can crack body covers. Using your tweezers and alcohol, go underneath cone, slide cone up to body. Be sure that O-ring is clean. Use a small paintbrush with some lithium grease. And turn body cover clockwise to meet body. You will now need to test the scope for leaks. Use an airtight tester to blow up the instrument and check for any leaks in the body. If there are leaks, you will need to unscrew body sections and reseal. Check in mortar after you have tested.